This CV I'm about to share with you got me interviews from EY UK, Deloitte UK, and KPMG UK. It's the exact CV I used when I was still living in Cameroon and trying to get a job in the UK. So just to be clear, I'm not saying that this CV alone got me those interviews. Obviously, my qualifications and my experience played an important role in getting those interviews. This CV simply gave me the opportunity to get into the room, and that's exactly what a good CV is supposed to do. So I eventually passed the interview for EY UK and took up that role. So today I'm going to walk you through how I structured my CV, why I included certain things, and what I would change on that CV if I was applying for the same role today. So make sure you watch till the end because I'm going to share one very important tip that I believe most people underlook when they are writing their CVs. And this is something that can really help you stand out from other candidates. Hi and welcome to my channel. If you're meeting me for the first time, my name is Geshan. I'm an ACCA qualified accountant. I have over 7 years of external audit work experience across 2 Big Fours and 1 mid-tier firm working in Cameroon, Central Africa, and currently in the United Kingdom. On this channel, I share practical career advice to help accounting and finance professionals break through in their careers. If that's something you're interested in, then please do click the subscribe button. Now let's get into the CV. So before we start, I just want to clarify that this is not a perfect CV, but it's the real actual CV that got me those interviews. So most of the times when people look at a CV that worked, the first instinct is for them to copy it. But I don't think that that's the best approach. I think what really matters is understanding why each section is there and the principles behind those sections. So you can build a CV using the same principles and make it relevant to your own experience. So let's open it up. Pardon me, I'm going to be looking down because I have the CV on my iPad, but then I'm going to put the sections I'm looking at on the screen so you can follow. So the first thing you'll notice is the top of my CV, which I kept very simple. I have my name with ACCA at the end. I included details such as my date of birth and my status, my phone number and my email address, which are fundamental to any CV. But what I would change on this section if I were writing my CV today is I'll take out my status and my date of birth because those details are not really relevant on a CV. And one thing I'll also change is on my name, I included just the ACCA at the back, but I also have a master's degree. So I will include that after the ACCA. So after my name, I will have ACCA and I'll have MSc. Making your CV as clear as possible is important. So these kind of details may feel like they are small and they are tiny, but when you put all of these together, all the changes I'm going to be talking about, it will give you a relatively stronger CV. Always check your details because making a mistake on this section with something like your phone number or your email address can cause you to miss the invitation if they try to call you or if they send you an email to a wrong address. So you can actually lose an opportunity from something as small as your personal details. So moving to the professional summary, I think this is a really important section because personally, when I review people's CVs, I always pay attention to what they've put in their professional summary. I think what you put here should be clear enough to give the recruiter a really strong summary of who you are. It should highlight your key qualifications and your key experiences. My summary tells them that I'm ACCA qualified and it tells them I'm an audit senior with a wealth of experience, and it also mentions the specific sectors I had worked in, which were energy, oil and gas, FMCG and the not-for-profit sector. So the recruiter immediately knows that you've had experience in these sectors, you're qualified and you've gotten to audit senior level. I also mentioned the key accounting standards I have experience in, such as the IFRS, the IAS, and Cisco HADA, which is also important because those are standards that were on the job description. So you need to pay a lot of attention to your job description. Check what they need on their job description. So for the role I was applying for, it was clearly mentioned that you should have experience in IFRS and IAS, you should be qualified. So that's what I put on my professional summary because it's really important that from the summary, they see that you're already a potential candidate and you have most of what they require for that specific job. So what I would change in this professional summary if I was writing it today is that, like I mentioned above, I would include that I also have a master's degree, because I believe that that master's degree in professional accountancy from the University of London is a really great degree. And in addition, I will mention that my experience was gotten from a Big Four firm. I know it will be clear to see on my professional experience from below, but sometimes AI gets to read your CV before a physical HR person actually looks at your CV. So if your professional summary really states all of those details, it gives you higher chances for AI to pick out your CV first. So just make sure you're not leaving out any corners and you're putting everything that's relevant in your professional summary. Don't make it very long, but just make sure it includes everything that it needs to. So getting into the section that I think carries the most weight on my CV, my professional experience. So I think what's important to highlight from this section of my CV is the fact that my growth is really visible. So you can see that it reflects that I began as a junior audit associate, and then I eventually moved up to an audit associate in charging, and then I subsequently moved up to an audit senior. So I've seen cases where, for example, you are an audit senior and then you just put, if you've been in the firm, for example, for 5 years and you're currently an audit senior, you just put for example 2020 to 2025 and you put just one role, audit senior. I don't think that really reflects your growth. It doesn't reflect that you've been able to maneuver different levels of responsibility from junior up to getting to the senior role. So I think it's really important for you to break down your experience so that the recruiter can really see your progression. One thing to also note is that I was keen on keeping my CV to 2 pages. It was very important for me to keep my CV to 2 pages because at the time of writing this CV, I had just 4 years of experience. So I should not have a CV that's too long when I have just 4 years of experience. So I was really keen on keeping my CV at 2 pages. So normally I had to include being an intern first, and then junior audit associate, and then audit associate in charge, and then to senior. But I took out intern because it still fell within the level of junior audit associate, just so that I could keep my CV within 2 pages. So I was just trying to find that balance between the length of my CV and what is relevant for me to include in my CV. So that progression shows that I was trusted by my company with more responsibilities over time, which means that I was actually making progress in my work. So moving on to the duties of each specific role. The first thing I want to say with regards to duties is that when you're writing your CV, have the job description at the back of your mind as well when you're putting together your duties, because it's very important for your duties to demonstrate that you've gotten to do some certain tasks which are on the job description. The first one specified project management of all aspects of financial audit, including agreeing audit timelines. So this lets the recruiter know that I wasn't only involved in my normal audit tasks, I was also involved in planning, coordinating, and ensuring that audit deadlines were met. And this is a very important duty because the job description really specified that you are supposed to have had project management experience. So that's why you see it as the first duty I put, because I know that it was really crucial to this role. Another important duty which I included was identifying, researching, and helping to resolve complex accounting and audit issues. So this really demonstrates my technical ability. I was trying to demonstrate my technical ability here because this task shows that I've been comfortable working through engagements with challenges, because each engagement will bring its own different accounting complexities and issues and its own different risks. So this duty demonstrates that I was comfortable working through those challenges. Supervising and monitoring audit associates' work. This is also very important because it's one of the requirements of the job description. So this demonstrates that you've actually coached junior team members and you have been a very important aspect of their growth and their development, because the recruiter wants to know whether you are capable of coaching junior team members, because that's really, really important with a job such as audit senior, which requires you to have great project management skills and team management skills. So as your career develops, the recruiter will want to really see that you are capable of managing a team. So the other responsibilities you find, such as prepare draft audit reports following the firm's methodology, these are fundamental duties that you do at the level of audit senior. So I also included other duties which I would normally do within this role, but like I've mentioned, I've made it very clear. I've highlighted the duties which are really relevant for this specific role that I was applying for. So you notice that my duties as an audit associate in charge are basically the same as my duties as an audit senior. So this is just to demonstrate that I already started performing the duties of an audit senior at the level of an associate. And this is what most firms do, because once you're an audit associate, before you get promoted to an audit senior, you have to demonstrate that. So you get smaller clients that you manage, and when you do this effectively, then you get promoted to audit senior. So the roles I was doing as an associate in charge are the same as those I was doing as an audit senior, because it was basically the same thing. I just did not have the title yet. With regards to my duties as a junior associate, these are just like fundamental duties that you find an associate doing. I honestly did not spend so much time working on this section because it was mainly performing tests of controls, doing audit testing, assisting the senior to prepare reports and those sort of stuff. So I knew that the responsibilities that were key were my audit senior responsibilities and my audit associate in charge responsibilities, which I put in more time to prepare. So these duties as a junior audit associate are just like fundamental duties, which is fine because that's what is expected of a junior auditor. So one thing I also want to mention is that when you look at the job description, you know what you have to include in your CV, because I had experience from Guinness, Cameroon after working as an accounting intern at the National Community Driven Development Program, as you can see on my CV. But I did not include that experience on this CV because that experience was not in accounting and finance. It was in supply and operations. So I was trying to make sure that everything on my CV reflects the job I'm applying for. So when I was applying to get into KPMG as an intern, that experience was relevant because it was almost the only experience I had. I had just that Guinness experience and this National Community Driven Development Program experience. So I had only those two experiences. So when I was applying to KPMG, I included those experiences in my application. And also because Guinness is kind of a big brand, so it kind of gave me an edge to get in. I believe it gave me an edge to get in an audit internship at KPMG. But at this level, I was applying for audit senior and the role was primarily focused on audit. So there was no point including that experience within my CV. So this still boils down to the fact that tailor your CV to the job description. So that's basically it for the professional experience. So key takeaways in this section is make sure that your duties reflect the job description, and make sure that in your presentation of your duties and your different roles and responsibilities, your progression is evident. The recruiter can clearly see that you've moved between different levels of responsibility, which reflects the fact that you're getting better at what you do. That's very, very important. And don't forget to include the dates. As you can see to the right, I've included the dates showing when I started each role. So moving on to the qualifications part, that's my education basically. So this section is usually really quite straightforward. So my latest degree was my master's degree from the University of London, which I included, and begin to include the name of the university, the name of the degree, and the time frame within which you obtained this degree. And for my ACCA qualifications, I made sure to detail my progress. I think it's still fine if you just mention that you're an ACCA member, but at the time, I just believed that my experience was just 4 years, so I had to elaborate on other aspects of my CV to the best of my knowledge. So that's why I separated my ACCA diplomas, because, you know, with the ACCA, there are different diplomas you get before actually getting qualified, before being called a chartered accountant, you actually first begin with the diploma in accounting and business, which you obtain after 3 courses, and then you move to the advanced diploma in accounting and business. That's after the 9th course, I guess. I don't know if it's the same in current times, but that's how it was at that time. And then the professional level certificate is what you obtain when you've completed all the ACCA courses. And then finally you have the ACCA designation. That's when you become a chartered accountant. That's after you've completed your relevant work experience. That's your 3 years of work experience before you get the title of a chartered accountant. So I just made sure to detail that progress on my CV to make it clear. But at this point, I believe that just putting ACCA qualified is fine, but this was just my preference at this time when I was applying. Obviously, you include your bachelor's degree and the university you obtained it from and the time frame. So I also included this certification, which was FMVA, which I completed in 2022. But this is something I would not include if I was applying for this role today because it's not relevant to the job description. This is financial modeling and valuations, and it doesn't have a lot to do with audit per se. So I would have excluded this. I will probably include this if I was trying to apply for a banking role, maybe audit within a bank, then this will be relevant. But I was applying for a conventional audit role, so this was not relevant for me at the time. So if I was doing this today, I will not include this certificate. Even though I have it, I will make sure I include only certificates that are tailored to the role I'm applying for, such that the recruiter understands that I'm a perfect match for that role, not me trying other things and kind of being a jack of all trades. So the last qualification you see here is the Institute of Language and Business Studies. This is where I studied computerized accounting. I had to learn QuickBooks Pro, Search Sari Accounting, and Search Sari Trading. So this was just like a short 3 months training I did. And I included it here because I believe that it was relevant for the job I was applying for. I was an auditor, but just to demonstrate that I had some level of understanding of accounting software, which I'm going to be auditing. I'm going to be auditing outputs from these softwares with some clients. So this was relevant because it demonstrated that I had some knowledge of working with accounting software. So that's why I included this part within my qualifications. So the last section I included on the CV was my skills section. I made sure to keep this section very straightforward, even though it's also a very important section on your CV because it highlights the key skills you've had to accumulate within the course of your career. So I listed the technical knowledge that I believe was relevant to the role, such as being skilled in IFRS, IAS, and ESAS, alongside the softwares that I had gotten very comfortable using, such as Microsoft Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. I also mentioned skills such as Lean Six Sigma, which I had obtained. But if I was writing this section today, I'm going to exclude Lean Six Sigma because it's not relevant to the role that I was applying for. Skills like the ability to work under pressure is really crucial because it's important, because this is the kind of skills that working in an audit firm requires of you. So that's why I included ability to work under pressure, time management, analytical and problem solving skills, effective communication and interpersonal skills, finance and business analysis skills. These are very relevant skills which are necessary for audit jobs. So that's why I included them here, alongside the languages I am able to speak, which are English and French. So this is my CV exactly as recruiters saw it. And this is the CV that got me interviews for EY UK, KPMG UK, and Deloitte UK. So I promised to share one thing that I believe most people completely overlook when writing their CV. And to be honest with you, I did not include it on my CV when I was applying for this role. But with my current experience, I've realized that it's a very, very important part of your CV, and it helps you and it gives you an edge to getting interviews. And that will be including your achievements on your CV. Create an achievement section on your CV because that's very important. You'll find out that there are so many people with the same bachelor's degrees, master's degrees that you have, experience as you. So you need to find something that will help you stand out. You need to find something that you put on your CV that will differentiate you from the other applicants. Include achievements that you can genuinely speak about, and where possible, achievements that you can support with concrete evidence. And this has taught me something over the years. This has taught me to document my achievements. And don't ever think that an achievement you have is small. It could be an email from a manager, it could be a performance review that you've received, it could be a different record of your contribution or a promotion. And always try to have this documented. This is something that I believe you should take it as a point of duty in your professional journey, to keep record and to keep a track of all your achievements, no matter how small they are. If it's something that was difficult to document, make sure that it's something that your manager or your colleagues can confidently speak about on your behalf. Whenever you lead a project, or you receive positive feedback, or you win an award, or you complete a major engagement, or even when you make a significant contribution, save it somewhere. If your office or your organization documents those achievements, then that's even better. When the time will come for you to update your CV or prepare for an interview, you already have very strong examples to draw from, instead of trying to think of something that happened months or years back. So always make sure that you are documenting your achievements. It's very important, because that could be the only differentiating factor between your CV and the CV of somebody else who has exact same experience as you and exact educational qualifications as you. So I've shared the CV exactly the way recruiters saw it. So make sure you've taken note of all the changes I've mentioned that I would have affected within my CV, starting from the top all the way to the bottom. So these changes may seem small, but when you accumulate all of them and affect them on your CV, you will have a significantly stronger CV. If there's one thing I would like you to take away from this video, is that a good CV is not about using fancy words. It's about making the recruiter understand who you are and what you can bring to the role. Always think about the person who is reviewing your CV, and also understand that they are reviewing dozens of other applications. The easier you make their job, the better the chances you get of being invited to an interview. So keep your strongest qualifications easy to find. Show how you've progressed in your career. Be clear about your responsibilities, and whenever you can, make sure you show the impact that you've had. I hope that seeing a real CV has been helpful. Everyone's experiences are different, so you don't need to copy the CV word for word. Just make sure you are able to apply the principles I've explained in this CV to your own personal experience. So I'd love to hear from you. What's the one thing you're going to improve on your CV after watching this video? Leave it in the comments below. I read the comments, and it also helps me understand what videos to create next. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who you know is trying to find an accounting, finance, or an audit job. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.